I reckon I can hit a 320 off season.
How's your 320?
Next time. You're 320 now?
Yeah. I got up to 326 and I couldn't fucking put my socks on, so I kind of like scaled it back a bit.
Just do a JP and just don't wear fucking socks.
Back to episode 2 of Bash Bros podcast. As you may have noticed, we've got a slightly different setup. 2 of the lads couldn't join us, so we have a new host, well, 2 hosts actually. First one being Daniel McNabb, aka Big Pale Nasty, and probably he's best off telling you his competition history because it doesn't sound very good coming from me. Go on, bud.
I had to try so hard not to wave then, like a fucking quiz show contestant. They just say, "Hi, they're waving." Competition history. Fuck. I did a few shows in pants, picked some stuff up, put it down, got pretty massive. Recently, I lost the universe overall, so that wasn't great. But Jack Brooker did me on that. I was a little bit watery in the midsection, and yeah, he that's what it is. Before that, I won the British overall. I've kind of done NAB. I came 4th in the pro universe, and so I guess NABA's kind of done. I went to Amsterdam and did a pro qualifier, which was fucking nuts. Yeah, absolute monsters out there, and just basically got smoked by having shit legs. Is pretty much where it's at. But I came fit.
It was bad luck for you, though, wasn't it? Because if you look at it through the year, qualifiers, there was some qualifiers with very low numbers and some of the standards weren't great in some of the shows. And then you turned up at the one show where it seemed like some of the best super heavies in the world, amateur super heavies, just turned up.
I think you've got to be I don't want to win because of who turned up. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, still, you know.
So yeah, I got unlucky. But to be honest, there were 13 of them. And I was actually at the time happy to get even on the fucking podium at the end. The rest of them got sent home at 11 in the morning. So, it was a bittersweet. It was a bittersweet time, but it was well run. It was nice. Amsterdam's lovely. I actually proposed to my missus in Amsterdam with a death face, and she still said yes. So, her drug addiction's going really well.
Oh, on that bombshell. So the second host we have that's joined us is Jack Thorburn. He is a social media phenomenon, and again, competition history-wise, I think he's better off running you through that. I'll pop up his page, I think, on the screen. Go on. Jack.
I knew you were going to bust my balls about Instagram.
It's only for the...
Oh no, is he #blessed? That's not him.
There he is.
That's not him. That's some handsome bastard.
Yeah, so I haven't done half as much as Dan, but done a few shows, done all right in them. Couple of British finals yet to win a British, but that's all the next goal for me. Looking to compete next year. I'm very glad I didn't make the decision to compete this year. I think that's been a bit of a blowout, really. I was to and froing with it, but I'm very glad that I didn't now, really. So skip to the better ones, yeah?
The quads. The
quads.
So just go to the leaner days.
Oh, okay. That was a long time ago, Jack.
It was the best days, isn't it?
That was 2016. So,
yeah.
There we go.
Forcing this boy either.
Decent hair.
Yeah. Well, so introductions are done. I suppose everyone knows Geraint and Ryan from last week. Well, not last week. It was 3 weeks ago now. We tried to do this podcast a few times and failed miserably. We kind of missed. Yeah, we missed the trick a little bit because last week was Mental Health Awareness Week, and I think the whole sort of fundamental reason we set this podcast up was to be sort of open and honest and talking about everything bodybuilding, including mental health. So For me, it was just a case of touching on, obviously, last week, with it being Mental Health Awareness Week. I do have a friend, his name is Jaden Jones. I'll put the link in the comments below. He did half a marathon on his drive, running back and forth to represent what it's like to be in your own head, which was a good idea, I think, and obviously raising money for mental health awareness. So I'll send the link across. I don't suppose any of you guys have got anything that you want to sort of promote or encourage?
How big was his drive?
Does it really matter? I think it was like 10 meters.
Well, if it was a short one, he must have done fucking loads of turns. You get dizzy. Because if it was my drive, I get dizzy. Like, what?
Well, I think that was the whole idea, really. I mean, obviously, once the gyms are open, we've got the idea of setting up an event where we keep the barbell going, because there's like 6,500 suicides a year in the UK. We wanted to represent that by doing 6,500 reps without putting the bar down, with maybe 60 kilos on the bar or something. But we'll sort of iron that out, I think, closer to the time. But for now, I guess I'll put the link in for that, and we'll leave it at that for now.
What the fuck? I'm not in prep for that. Jesus Christ.
Well, we'll let Kiera do it, because she's joining us in a minute. We'll let her do all the rest.
She'll do all of them. I'll do one at the beginning.
Mate, I was looking at her profile, like the weight she's pulling, and it's so fucking easy how she's pulling it as well, to be fair to her. Like, she's an animal. And she's going to reflex, and something what I've seen.
She's moving, to Rotherham or something, whatever it is, yeah. Yeah, so we'll talk about that when she joins us. But yeah, so in terms of going forward with the podcast, I know we just wanted to be open, frank, and honest. I mean, last week, some of the stuff I had a conversation with Ryan about sort of shocked me. There's like things like you were discussing the cost of the visa and how much it costs you to go to America. To live there, to do what you're doing. You were telling me it was something stupid, like 14 grand or something you paid for your visa?
Thousands.
Bonkers.
Even with the $12,000 fucking dollars for the visa, I need 600 pages of information for my visa, of letters, of competition history, the fact that I've competed internationally, because if I'd only just competed in the UK, I wouldn't be allowed and available to apply. I need letters from like IFBB officials, top pros in the sport. And get this, right? If my parents or my brother and sister had both been in prison, I wouldn't be allowed to get a visa. How the fuck is that my fault?
Yeah, that's nuts. And didn't you say, because obviously the coronavirus lockdown, you're going to pay some crazy money now because your Esther's run out?
Yeah, $800 days.
Fuck, that's insane.
I mean, however, I would rather stay here, and I think that they might try and make me go home. I'd rather pay the $800 and stay here because it's pretty much open here. Like, obviously, I've been training the whole time anyway, and gyms are technically open as well. That's where if I come back home, I've gone through most of the coronavirus, like being able to train and whatnot. Then I come back towards the end, and I'm fucking stuck in the UK where it's all fucking shit.
Yeah. Are you guys still training, the rest of you?
Yeah, I'm doing bits, but I've only got limited stuff in the house, so it's only so much I can do. Like, and it's, do you know what I mean? It's just like resistance stuff, and it's just maintaining what I got. It's not like, I mean, other people, like I see other people on social media, they're growing up, like, and I'm like, I haven't got that kit, like, do you know what I mean? But I'm just maintaining. That's my main part. I'm happy that I'm maintaining that. So, but I don't know for the rest of the boys do.
You're still going hard, aren't you, Jack?
Yeah, I'm quite fortunate that I've got access to like a private facility. So someone sort of extended a invite to me, and there's just like a select few of us going down there. So I'm pretty fortunate in that regards.
What have you done?
Yeah, I've got some shit like Trojan Fitness, like lent me some plates. So I've got like 250 plates. I've got an Olympic bar. I just bought a SSB bar. I've got a squat rack that I picked up a little. Like, I've got it. The thing, I just fucking hate it. I'm trying to like fucking hate it. I'm trying to like, yeah, everyone's on Instagram, like, oh yeah, positive. Fuck off, man. It's bollocks, isn't it? Like, do you know what I mean? I'm like,
it is.
like I walk through my kitchen, like Hyde Park, yeah, fucking right in the kitchen. Like the sofa looks nice. Maybe I could have a cup of tea and like just, you know what I mean? It's hard to like zoom it in. I can't think of like, yeah, fucking stamping on kittens and fucking, you know, like I worked a long time to try and make like my home like my quiet space. And now I'm like fucking playing Leroy Davis videos out my DVD player in the front room, trying to give it some. And then my dog comes and like, it's like, hey, you lifting? You're like, oh, the dog's cute. No, he's not cute. Fuck him. You know, it's hard. It's hard. And so, but I've managed to, over the last week, I've managed to like harness how much I fucking hate it to like fuel me, to be like, fuck you, I hate everything. I'm not a sunshine trainer. Do you know what I mean? I'm not I train like it's like a darkness fire. I have to like go through some places. You know, I didn't start training so that I could look like sexy for the gal them. And that was never gonna fucking happen anyway. Like I looked like a collapsed lung anyway. Like I was doomed. So like, you know, I did it because I needed a release. From some shit. I think most people that train to a high level do it for a need rather than a want. And it's hard to call on that stuff, especially when you've tried hard to make your house a place of calm and things like that, you know. So it's shit, basically. I've got all the kit, but I'm just a fucking wanker and I can't do it and I hate everyone.
Oh, yeah. Sounds good. But yeah, I completely agree with you. I think
sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good. But in all fairness, I completely get it. Like I got the kit. People keep telling me that I post the videos and people saying you got a good setup and whatever. It's not the same. You can't get in that headspace. You can't get that complete release, you know. And I think those are the places you need to go to really add muscle. And I posted on my Instagram yesterday, actually, but it was quite funny because I'm a big fan of people posting this stuff up, you know, and being accountable and what have you. But the amount of people I've seen on social media who are just getting fatter and they're claiming to be getting bigger, it's just pissing me off now. They're like, yeah, making gains. No, pal, you just get fat. Like, come on, just be honest with yourself.
I just like, yeah, I'm harnessing the same intensity as the gym. Are you? Then when you train at the gym, you're a fucking pussy. That's what's the reality of it, really. If you're managing to harness the same intensity, rolling around on your fucking furry rug, like wanking around with some elastic bands, do you know what I mean? Saying, oh yeah, I did a band workout yesterday and I'm fucking smashed. Are you? You fucking raging pussy. You don't deserve to be in the gym. There should be a thing where if you've posted about being #blessed and having a fucking great band workout on your Instagram, it should be banned from all gyms. When we reopen, it should be fucked off, burnt at the stake out the front, as far as I'm concerned.
They're the people that are on their phones constantly in the fucking gym while they go to the gym. They got to be.
Yeah. You mean like Jack?
Knew that was coming.
Nah,
are you #blessed? Is Jack #blessed? I tried posting it 3 times, didn't make me any bigger.
Yeah, Jack's the sort of guy who spends 5 hours in the gym, literally. So I can imagine if he couldn't get to a gym right now, I'd imagine his mental health would be suffering massively.
I've got all the kit at the house as well. It's just still in the box because I haven't needed to open it yet. But they were like panic buys, so I spent a decent amount on it. But it's all just like in the boxes in my garage at the moment. But I'm glad I haven't had to. I think because that's the main issue with a lot of people. I think it's the atmosphere side of it. They can have all the kit in the world, but training in their house is just not the same. I think Johnny, potentially just by moving to the garden like you have, that might even be benefiting you a little bit. The fact that you've moved slightly further away from the house. But I know, like, in the house, I would never be able to.
Well, I've actually got access to the same facility as you if I wanted.
Yeah.
It's a little bit too far for me. And obviously, I'm still working at the moment, so I'm still in work sort of full time. And between having my kids and working, there's just no time for me to sort of commute there. Plus, throughout most of this lockdown, it would have been illegal for me to travel that far. So I'm managing to sort of maintain as such, but I'm utilising this time. I'm sort of off everything, giving my body a rest. Not that you would know anything about that, Jack, obviously. But I'm giving my body a good flush out, and as soon as the gyms reopen, I'll get my blood work done and sort of reassess the situation from there, Talking about blood work, I guess, Rai, with you being involved with Ben and the guys there and the way that they encourage things, sort of, is there like a set schedule or regime in terms of how often you get your blood work done and that?
Not as such. It's just kind of a very high factor, like, I wouldn't say weekly, but like he's kind of always on top of blood pressure and health. And ultimately, like, we all know that when you're this far in this sport and like on the verge of 300 pounds, no matter what you do, you're not going to be healthy and your blood pressure is never going to be fucking pitch perfect. It's kind of a bit of like I don't know what the right word to use is. I just think that, like, I'm trying to be as good as I can, just trying to prolong my life as much as possible. So everything they try and tell me to take and do, I'm going to implement. Like, if he thinks that me walking an hour outside a day, spending 25 minutes on breathing and trying to calm down my nervous system, etc., is going to extend my life. Therefore, I'm going to do it. There's so many little things that he's made me do in like daily practices where I'm like, dude, you're taking the fucking piss. Yeah. And he's like, and then you do it for a few weeks and you're like, fucking shit, this is crazy.
Well, that was good timing. I think Kiera's just jumped in. Can you hear us, Kiera?
Hi, I can hear you. I think I have no clue what I'm doing, but
no worries. We haven't got a clue either, to be honest.
Right. How are you guys?
I don't know if you know everyone.
I know a few of you. Yeah, I know Ryan.
How are you?
Hi, yeah, I'm good, thank
Everyone
you.
knows Ryan.
Yeah.
So for everyone who's watching or listening, Kiera is like one of the young sort of powerlifting and bodybuilding, I suppose, phenomenons in the UK at the moment. I'll just share a page up on the screen. I've still got Jack up at the minute. But you get an idea as to why we've invited her on, because
what a phenomenon that is. What a phenomenon.
Look at his hair.
Let's get him off. Get him off the screen.
I've seen this guy.
So
I'm going to put that as my middle name now on the username, the phenomenon.
So I think, which video was it that I first saw? I think it was the 240 banded, is like this one here. I think this was the first video I saw.
This ruined my life, actually.
Like it's nothing. Like
it didn't feel like it was nothing.
You're good at pretending.
That's crazy, Paul. Fair play.
Thank you.
Wow. So yeah, I'll come off here now. But if anybody wants to follow Kiera, I don't know what's she using it again. It's Kiera Aston Fitness, Kiera J Aston Fitness. So if you want to follow her on there. So you're the youngest IFBB pro female, I think, in the UK.
Yeah, in Europe. So yeah,
oh, wow.
I'm waiting for someone to come along, but I think there are a few people that are going to go for figure pro cards this year that are also quite young. But yeah, so far the youngest in Europe. So
first year of competing as well.
Yeah, first year competing. I did a bikini show about 2 years ago. 2-3 years ago now, and just wasn't feeling it. I love the bikini look, but it just wasn't for me. So decided to transition over to figure. Did it last year for the first time and absolutely love it. So gonna do my pro debut this November.
Okay, so in terms of the powerlifting, how does that work? Because traditionally for us as bodybuilders, we get told powerlifting and bodybuilding are two very different things. So obviously you're managing that, and I don't know how you manage to keep your strength so high and still develop the amount of muscle that you're developing so, so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird one. I mean, I would probably say you can't ever powerlift and bodybuild at the same time, for example, if you were going to be doing a meet in November and you were also going to be prepping for a competition in November, that kind of thing, I don't reckon would be sustainable. Like, you're either going to give in one or the other. But I think for an off season, powerlifting is incredible for men and females. I mean, for me, in my off season, I get quite fluffy. It's hard to actually tell whether or not you're progressing because you can't necessarily see the muscle underneath all the fluff. So I started judging it by my lifts. If my lifts started going up, then I knew I was putting on muscle. And then from that, in my off season, someone said to me, "Oh, do you reckon you should give powerlifting a crack?" And that was last year. And I've just ran the two side by side since. I mean, I've only done it for a year, so even it could even be too much for me, like going into the future. But I have planned this year to do powerlifting and bodybuilding in conjunction with each other, but not at the same time. So I'll powerlift up to a certain point, transition, and then transition back. So I'm still doing both of them, but they're not necessarily like at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, how far out from a show would you start the powerlifting, do you think?
So I'm gonna include my powerlifting movements literally up until about 6 weeks out of a show. So I'm going to try and maintain as much strength as possible, dedicate a whole full day a week just to powerlifting, and then still add in bench, squat, deadlift throughout the week, but obviously focusing a lot more on like accessory work and anything for bodybuilding as well. I'll probably stop that about 6 weeks out, and then soon after I finish my pro debut, whatever that may be, I'll go straight back into it. And then I've got my meet in March, so I've got about 3 or 4 months to try and regain any strength that I've lost, but hopefully I'll have gained strength up until 6 weeks out, so it shouldn't be too much of a difficulty. But we're just going to see how it goes. Like, it's not something I've done before, so it's one of those things where we're just gonna fingers crossed and hope both of them go well.
Yeah, I think ultimately a lot of it is genetic. Obviously, genetic. Your capability to be stronger is obviously far better than most. And you're sort of capitalizing on that, I guess. But we've got a massive array of different training methods on this podcast now. We've got Danny's very intense. Then you've got Jack, who is the guy who spends about 5 hours a day in the gym. Then you've got...
I'm intense on my phone, okay? I'm intense to do that.
He's out with Ben because learning all the tricks of the trade.
Putting electrodes on his balls whilst he's training and like all that stuff.
We need to reiterate how good Kiera actually fucking is. Like, we're all kind of half decent bodybuilders, but she's just on another fucking level.
Notice how I said nothing. I just stopped talking. And she said it. I was just like, fucking.
Oh, I try a little bit.
The worst thing about it,
half good at something. She just.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think most of us class ourselves as like strong bodybuilders to a degree, relatively speaking. But yeah, but when you put your numbers up, it completely makes us look absolutely inferior. I probably weigh just over 18 stone at the moment, and or what's that in pound? Something like 250 or something. And I probably struggle to do some of the lifts you're doing at the moment, and I'm like fucking so much heavier, and that's just insane.
Do you know what? Thank you. Do you know what? I think a lot of it, though, does come from the bodybuilding, like the intensity side of it. I'm obviously not speaking on behalf of all powerlifters, but I do think a lot of powerlifters struggle with that side of things. They always keep to very low reps. They never really kind of venture outside of what powerlifting is, which is low reps, low intensity, just do it. Like, literally probably the most people would normally do is 5 at a push. Normally it's 3. So I definitely think having that mentality of liking to do high reps, like chucking in, set like reps of 20 and things like that, I think that does help a lot. Like, I've come across quite a few bodybuilders who also have that mentality, who have very, very easily picked up strength because of that. And I do think if more powerlifters incorporated things like bodybuilding movements and learn intensity into their routine, I think it would benefit people a lot.
I think traditionally, though, a lot of people are afraid to expend energy on things that are not specifically working towards that goal. You know, obviously, you've got to have an open mind towards both, because you have both as main goals. But if you were to pick one, which one is the most important?
I get asked. Do you know what? I literally get asked this all the time, and I can't decide. I honestly, without sounding big-headed, I think I have a chance at being world #1 in powerlifting. I think I may, in a few years, have a chance at making top 5 in the Olympia. So I think for that reason, I'd have to go for powerlifting, just for the fact that I can be the best in it, if that makes sense. But honestly, like, I love them both so much for completely different reasons. But if I had to choose one, it would be powerlifting. But I get more enjoyment out of bodybuilding, like the prep for bodybuilding and the whole process of getting on stage. I enjoy a lot more. So both for different reasons. But yeah, if I had to pick one, then
the thing is you're still only 21. When you get to mine and Dan's age, you'll soon realize that you can't stay strong and be functional.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work, you know. I've got a fully ruptured pec, which I torn 3 times. And I've torn pretty much every muscle in my body at some point. And that's all through enjoying lifting big weights, you know, not to your extreme, you know. I like lifting big weights, so I like that adrenaline that you get when you're under a big.
I think when you get to the level that Kiera's at, is that you need to do it for the world. Like, if you're ready to take on and be the best in the world, you have to take that opportunity. It's about you, but you owe it to your sport to do the best that you possibly can. So, and to do it at that age whilst you can do both is just ridiculous. Ridiculous. I'm 35 years old. I can't be doing that. I'd love to throw away around some big weights now, but like Johnny was saying, I've probably got 5 years left in this thing that I love, like, realistically, of progressing, and I'm like one snapped tendon away from those 5 years being stolen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could tear your leg off. They put, like, by the time you're my age, you'd probably be able to attach a new one, grow stem cells for a new pet. You got Ryan, who's like 11 or whatever, and he's having blood work, worrying about his life and health and stuff. I was Ryan's age. I was just wondering whether I should clean the straw before I blew coke up some hooker's ass or something. Like all this sensible talk, mate, to be young again. Ryan's having blood work done every 5 minutes, putting electrodes in his ears to make sure they're the right shape and that. But you young guns, man.
The thing is, I look at 5, so that's why I'm trying to scale my life back, because I know I'll be dead soon. So everyone's like, dude, you look like you're about 36. I'm like, damn, fucking got to shit out now.
No, it's just because you're a big guy, I think, isn't it, right? You do still look young in the face, but yet I've been stood next to you. You're quite an imposing guy, you know. I wouldn't say you were just only 22, you know.
I mean, all the girls seem to think I'm their fucking dad. I'm like, babe, I'm the same age as you. Got a hard paper round, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
All uphill. Yeah, I actually get asked sometimes if I'm my missus's dad.
No way, like.
That makes me feel good and shit at the same time, basically. It's usually some troll on TikTok. I can't go around and bludgeon them to death, but it's rarely in the street. It's really, unfortunately, especially with coronavirus, it's really hard to open someone's skull up from 2 meters away.
I had the same issue when I went to America. I took my kids to Florida last year, and I took my mum to give me a hand. And everywhere I went, they were like asking me if she was my wife. Not much fun.
Yeah, and you don't want to be rude about your mum, do you?
And I'm like, fuck.
You want to be like, her? Oh. You want to be like, oh, no, it could happen, mum. It's cool. Yeah. I can see where they're coming from.
Okay, no. So, talking about injuries and stuff, Jack, you you've got a few injuries. I've never really understood exactly what your injuries are. So maybe you're going to run us through what you've got, because I've never seen somebody twitch so much when they're training. Like you're forever stopping and having a little twitch and a readjustment. So
it's quite hard to explain, which is why I've never mentioned it to you.
What's you saying about him? You said he couldn't understand. You're too thick. There's no point in explaining it to you, you moron. That's why I've kept it to myself.
In a nice way, Dan. In a nice way.
He's a nice moron. Okay.
So basically, I'd shorten it up to tight hip flexors. I've thrown my posture off. So my body's all over the place. Shoulders up here, one's down there, one hip's there. And then the sort of firing patterns of all my muscles has just gone like berserk, and it doesn't know what it's doing. So like certain muscles fire when they shouldn't, and other ones that should don't, basically. But I spent like 3 years trying to sort it out, and it's a lot better than it was. So Johnny, those little twitches you see of me trying to sort things out, but to no avail a lot of the time.
Oh, that's a relief. I thought he was going to say it was Parkinson's. So
I did debate it before.
I feel better.
Yeah.
That wasn't as bad a story as I was worried then. It's good. Okay.
Problem. Especially with my shoulders and my hip flexors and stuff, and it actually all comes from your hip and my feet, and then it gives me knee pain as well. So I'm seeing a specialist over here about it, and it's like it comes from where you don't really think it comes from. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. So what about you, Kiera? In terms of looking after your body now, then I guess going from doing those big lifts so frequently and throwing in an array of bodybuilding movements, I can imagine your recovery time is quite a difficult one to manage, and in terms of staying on top of niggles.
Yeah, I mean, luckily, my recovery time is pretty crazy. Like I can lift a 250 deadlift and I won't feel it the next day. Nothing will hurt, absolutely nothing. But staying on top of that is like majorly important. So obviously not since lockdown, my coach twice a week to literally like full body everything, and I didn't actually realize until I'd kind of done 2 years worth of bodybuilding and had just really got back into powerlifting, how much I should have actually been staying on top of my body, like just muscle tightness, just little things. I was getting some shoulder pain, I was getting like neck pain, I had a problem with my piriformis, and for me, luckily, it was all just to do with tight muscles. But if I don't keep on top of treatment for it, it can turn into something a lot worse. So it's more just staying on top of weekly treatments for me. I don't have any bad injuries or anything like that currently. Well, touch wood. But yeah, so it's literally just staying on top of that for me. I think I've felt it a little bit more during this lockdown, just a little bit more of muscle tightness, but nothing major.
Yeah, so I think Dan will probably resonate with what I'm saying. When I first started training, stretching and having work done was for the pussies. You know, we'd go in the gym, we were like warming up with our working weights. You know,
Yeah.
So it's crazy to see how things have changed and I've moved forward, you know, and I'm a massive fan of it. Like I stretch a lot more now. I stretch my hips a lot more for like my squat mobility and that. It's helped a lot, but it's just wonderful. I'd love to have known a lot of the stuff I know now back in the day, you know.
Yeah.
I snapped my chest clean off the bone, just purely from an ego point of view. But had I probably warmed up correctly and sort of stretched and done all the things that everybody's doing these days and looked after myself, it probably wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't regret it because, you know, I am where I am. I probably would be dead right now, being consumed with being a pro. But, you know, ultimately for me, I'm never going to realize my full potential. So as much as for someone like you, you know, it comes naturally to be that strong, it is sort of difficult for some people to manage that strength
Yeah, 100%.
You know, the reward, risk versus reward, you know, sort of thing. And Dan is a huge advocate of intensity and sort of getting after it, not strictly just with the weight. So I mean, obviously, Dan, you train a lot with Anth Bales and Leroy, isn't it?
Yeah, like it's a type of training I did anyway of high intensity. You know, if you're British, Dorian's kind of your guy, isn't he? So a lot of people look to Dorian. Obviously, there are loads of other great champions, but you know, he's from the UK. He smashed it. You know, he probably he changed it for the mass, for the people, from the aesthetic and stuff like that. It was a huge change, and so I've always trained similar to that. The thing is that you have like a correlation, especially when you're my age, is that there's a negative correlation between intensity and volume. So the more intense you are, the less volume that you can perform. It makes sense. You're never as strong on your fourth set as you are your first set. If your first set was, you know, you warm up, you do your first set. If you were to do 4 all-out sets, your fourth set would drop. You would drop weight or whatever. So the concept of a negative correlation is fairly obvious. So the other side of that as well is frequency. I don't train a lot, and maybe if I was younger and I had like the recuperation powers that Kiera does or other people, then I might be able to train more. But the whole ethos behind that is recovery. That when I shifted my focus to recovery rather than breaking down, I got bigger, a lot bigger. I was concentrating too much on smashing the workouts and not concentrating enough on sleeping, eating as well. Every time I go and train, I'm burning more calories. Some people can put on weight with small, you know, minimal amounts of food. I'm 6'2". I can't be small. I have to eat 7,000+ calories a day to put any weight on. You know, I have to concentrate more on the consumption of food and rest than I do the training. So the high intensity training is much more suited to me because, I don't know, when I went to the universe, my prep for the universe was 3 training days a week. And I would train a 4-day split, so I train everything every 10 days. You know, and everyone's like, you know, everyone comes up to you, oh, how you must train every day. I was like, well, I don't really train that much. The problem with that, obviously, is if you try and combine that and you don't have the recuperation powers of you know, you're not a genetic freak, which I'm not, then you start tearing shit off, basically. And I'm in the position now where, you know, we didn't know when me and Johnny was starting out, we didn't know about stretching and stuff like that. And I think I did my first competition prep off an email that was sent to someone else for someone else. And I was just like, oh, chicken and rice. Okay, I can do that. You know, I can eat chicken and rice. And so, you know, from one aspect, everyone's very lucky to have all the information that's out there on stretching and stuff like that. And, you know, do I wish it was around then? Yeah, I do. But would I have actually taken it into consideration? Probably fucking not, because I'm an idiot. And, you know, the guys coming up and stuff, they're taking it very seriously. The information that there's coming from, and it's showing. The young people are coming up thick and fast. Do you know what I mean? Us dinosaurs here, like, I'm scraping for something that these guys are achieving. Well, Kiera got her pro card in her first show. Do you know what I mean? I've been competing 10 years and I'm not there. You know, I'll get there eventually, but probably by the time I've got there, I'm probably done. But you know, it's not for that. I'm not doing it for glory or anything like that. I love this shit. I'll keep doing it until the wheels fall off. But the injury aspect is a balance, and everyone else has a different threshold before they fuck it up. And it's knowing when yours is, and age has an impact, rest has an impact. If you don't sleep very well, some people are insomniacs. All of those things combined, you know, and when you get older, you're one big injury away from it being over.
The irony is, though, Dan, I think what you just said resonated with me from this lockdown perspective. So because I've got limited kit, so ultimately, obviously now I'm utilising the time to give my body a slight rest. But for the first 4 weeks, I was still sort of trying my best to give it a good go. And I found that because I was limited with movements, my volume dropped, but I was obviously keeping the intensity in. But in actual fact, I found that I was probably making a little bit more progress for the first couple of weeks because I was keeping everything as it should be, you know, from all aspects, supplement-wise and stuff as well. So yeah, I completely get that. And I think that's one thing that I take from this lockdown, I think, for me, ultimately, is to implement more rest. Because the hardest thing, I think, for bodybuilders is because you enjoy it. So, I mean, the whole sort of reason we started this podcast was because of the whole mental health awareness thing. And a lot of us, we go to the gym to get out of that headspace and to sort of think of nothing and get in the gym and train. So it's difficult for a lot of people, you know, when you're focused on utilizing the gym for that reason and then for your goals, you sort of get sort of sold a lie that more training is better, you know. And I think that's one thing I'm taking from this whole lockdown, I think, maybe is to sort of maybe reduce my training frequency and to increase my rest and focus on those sort of aspects, you know.
I mean, I think you do have to balance it. You know, we're here because we fucking enjoy it. And, you know, if you want to do a certain type of training shot because it'll progress better or something like that, you're like, are you going to trade in what you fucking love to progress? You know, what is the goal? You know, is it the goal to you know, hit number one? Are you do it? You know, and these things like chop and change, I find, but it's ultimately whatever sets that fire underneath your fucking ass gets you going. I was always into high intensity stuff, short blips of hell, you know, and get in and get out. I tried volume and stuff. I just, yeah, cool, I got a pump, it felt nice, you know, I looked good for 10 minutes till I deflated into a potato in the changing room. Like, but yeah, I don't know, and that, I don't know, it is different, the look is different, you know. I think if you look at the people that are training heavy, you know, I think the look is harder. I think you can tell when someone does some fucking heavy shit, and it usually looks more impressive. Now, genetics will give people, you know, all over that you don't really see training. You know, have you seen a good Phil Heath training video?
No.
No. Because Phil Heath can do anything and just grow. So there are obviously exceptions to the rule, but I think most people here on planet Earth need to pick up some heavy shit to break down some tissue to grow some extra. And that's what I like doing. So you've got to balance it out, you know, like it's you know, if you're thinking about what you're going to grow from, you go in, you smash, and you do a bench press, you're doing, you know, fucking 4 plates aside, and you're doing 8-10 reps or whatever, yeah. And then you finish the workout, and then you go and do some flies. Have you grown from doing the flies? Did they really help you out, or did they just dig your central nervous system out? You know, you talk about doing a flush set or whatever. Yeah, maybe a bit of pumping blood, but really, are you just dipping into your reserves? Because everyone talks about recovery. You've got to recover, but bodybuilding is not about recovering, because you have to grow on top. And your body doesn't want to fucking grow unless you're Phil Heath. And it's not a survival attribute that your body's looking for. You know, if you're massive, you need to eat more, you will die faster if there is no food. You know, your body doesn't want to grow. So you have to force that shit. You know, unless you're genetically gifted, your body will do anything. And it's the end of a very long list of things it needs to do: replenish glycogen, central nervous system, blah, blah, and then grow is at the bottom. And that goes in again to your extended rest periods. For most people, you need that. Now, obviously, there's exceptions to the rules. I also train I have trained for a bodybuilding show, a guy called Luke Sharp, and Luke Hayward, and he does exactly what Kiera does. He does powerlifting on, and then he does shows off. He won the British Novice like NABBA on his first go, and his weight's like, he's going for a 900 total. He weighs about 103 kilos. Some people can do it. Some people can do that. They can recover and stuff, and that's amazing. I will die. I would die.
I think the whole like heavy lifting. So I can't remember when it was. Maybe 2017. I was going down to train with Leroy and the boys twice a week in Birmingham. That was the time probably that transformed my physique the most, was training like that. Again, like not going for that pump. And like, obviously you felt great in the gym, like I was prior to doing this sort of training. And then you train like that and I'm like, yeah, I feel good. Like he's fucking killing me. But the rest of the week you would feel the same too. As where now, like I go in there, get a pump. I'm like, yeah. Then I leave and I'm like, oh, you know, as well, like I just feel the same all the week long. And that was like that completely changed how my physique looked. It went from being like a more of a stringy sort of physique to just like that denser sort of look to it. And like, that's what I prefer to do. That's what I always wanted to do. And that's what I like doing, is just fucking getting under some weight. So it's hard for me to be like, pick up a 12 kilogram kg dumbbell and just go through some perfect form and whatnot. But with weak parts, I think it definitely helps. Like things that have lagged in my physique from training heavy and just fucking going insane. Sometimes I've gone, fuck off, Ryan, I'm not going to grow because you're fucking me about. And then now I'm like, I need a bit more triceps and everything has to be fucking like technical, you know? So I think there's a little part of both.
Have you found that working with Ben Pekulski? Because he's all about like your weaknesses are generally not, it's a weakness in connection, isn't it? And working round like that feel. Because I do agree. People say, oh, what do you do for your traps? Well, I don't train traps. You know, so it's usually not as linear as that. And so I do agree if you have something like that. Is Ben showing any light? I'm a big Ben fan as well. I'm a big Ben fan. Just want to put that out there.
Yeah, he's like my best friend now. I'd fucking love him to bits. But some of the things he says are a bit insane. But so like I have a very pretty good upper back and everything in my rear or bicep shot's pretty good. But my like lower lats I've never really had. And this is because of my hips and my core stability, right? So when my trap actually attaches onto my hips, it's unstable. So for me to be able to train lats, I have to warm up my hips, train abs and obliques first for my left lat to fire. So I can sit there and train lats all day long, doesn't do fucking jack shit unless I've warmed up my hip mobility, my obliques and stuff like that. And then I go in and I can do a couple of reps and I'm like, damn, I can feel it straight away. And like again with my triceps, my flexibility has always been pretty bad. And like when I try and train triceps, they just never do anything. And I never really get a pump and it always feel like shit. And it just fucking feels wank. And now like I go through some special like sort of angles, like really locking that lat down, shoulder depressed, really shortening the tricep, warming it up. And I'm like, for a few reps in, I'm like, fuck. No, never felt that before. But apart from like, sometimes if I go and train chest, which for me is pretty good, like that, I could do it for hours. It doesn't feel the same as when I get on like fucking some heavy weights, do a couple of reps, I'm like, done. You know what I mean? So I think like your own physical genetics within your physique, like change a lot of it. So somebody a bit this, you know?
Yeah, man. That's awesome though, isn't it? If you think about it, because you've got two very conflicting approaches, if you can get a nice mix of them both, it works. And obviously, we haven't really mentioned much about Jack's training, but Jack trains for a very long time in the gym. So what's your sort of ethos in terms of training, Jack? And we've never really spoke about how your approach is. I know you're a big fan of progression and logbooking, but I don't know, what's your general sort of take on it?
I think I'm...
Being a natural guy, obviously, let me just clarify, being a natural guy.
You said it, not me. Right, I'll write it on my forehead. I'll write it on my forehead. But, no, like, yeah, so I am a big proponent of like logging your lifts, progressive overload. But I think because of the injuries I've had over the past few years, I've been guilty of doing more volume to compensate for the fact that I haven't been truly happy with how I've performed the exercises. So because my execution hasn't been as good as it could have been, maybe I haven't stimulated what I want, then I've like done more volume. I think if I could, I am looking to sort of transition now because my injuries are improving. I am sort of, my volume is coming down a bit. But going back to what Dan said, I think my issue is I don't compete because, like, I compete because I train. I don't train to compete. So my love for training is more than sort of my love for progress. So I think everything apart from training is very focused on being a better bodybuilder. But then when it comes to training, a lot of my training is focused on just the fact that I enjoy it. So, if I'm doing an exercise and it's feeling really good, this comes from the Galsies a lot, Donnie, okay?
Yeah.
They used to always say to me, like, oh, well, Flex used to say, if something's feeling good, he might stay on it and do like 5, 6, 7 sets on it. And that like stuck with me quite a bit. So if something's feeling good, quite often I'll like carry on going until maybe I want to move on. But I think I train just on a bit more of an enjoyment factor than actually what would be better. Because I know, like, at the moment I train 6 days a week. I've done months on end of training 7 days a week. And that was in a contest prep as well. But a lot of that was a lot like to do with the fact that I love it and I always want to be doing more. But I think ultimately I know that it would be better for me to rest more, but I don't think I'd enjoy it as much, Sensei.
Yeah, no, I get that. And I think for me, for a long time, I've been aware of the fact that maybe my volume was too high, but I can't help myself. We get to the end of a session and go, I think I've got a little bit more in me. You know, even though I do still try and bring that intensity in, and I still feel pretty fucked, I still think in my own head there's a number of exercises I should be performing, really, when there isn't really. You should be, you know, having a couple of big exercises, you know, and you should be able to gauge it from there. But what about you, Gare? Because I know you're relatively new to all this, so a lot of the people's methods and whatever, you know, what do you take from it all, bud? Because you, I know obviously you've only been really into training sort of a few years. You've competed once, is it?
Yeah, done the one show in 2018. Where we are now? Yeah, 2018. In body power. Yeah, I basically just got I got approached. I'd started a new gym in 2018 because also my previous gym, I've been here since I was 17, 18, and but then it kind of got I don't know, it was weird. I just sort of lost motivation there. And I was going there and I was doing my bit and I was training and, you know, I put my exercise in, put the work in and everything, and yeah, I just wasn't getting a click out of it. So I was like, right, I need to change gyms now. I want to change the gym, see if it, you know, just start things up again. I've been in this gym for, I don't know, 7, 8 years. And I changed then to a local gym that is closer to my home. And yeah, I got approached by one of the boys I've known for years, who've been training and competing and stuff. And he said, oh, I've ever thought about competing, but it was always for my brother. My brother was always, I always wanted him to compete, so I would, because I've always been the one to look after him, sort of thing, like, and I wanted him to do it more. But my previous mate, he said, oh, you know, look, I'm going in, start the diet, see where we go. If we make it, we make it. If you don't, then, you know what it's all about. But I think because of all that, you know, I say I relate to all of them, like, because of all the sort of like the drive and, you know, because you just fucking love doing it, I progressed and got right down to where I needed to be. I obviously, like, you know, when I competed, there was like a few bits that I fucking showed, like, I'm not going to be, you know, fucking going mental on it, like, so I done well. I got top 3, and it was more than expected, to be fair. But then after that, then I had that bite, like, and I just wanted a more higher level training, if you know what I mean. I say for years I've been training heavy, I've been doing loads of heavy lifting and loads of heavy shit, and it never worked for me. It never really worked for me. I had more. I started doing high volume, and that progressed for a bit. Then I don't know, my body kind of went in a bit of a stable position, like, and I weren't gaining any weight there, and I weren't dropping any. So I was like, I don't know what was happening. So I went back to heavy lifting then after the show, and I nearly lost my chest, and yeah, it's just so on and so forth.
I think a lot of this comes from the fact that you were quite new to, so you obviously were making a lot of progress being new to the supplement side of things. So you were, you know, I think your progression initially would have come from that, where I think having the additional sort of volume wouldn't really impact you as much. Whereas then when you get to that, I think you get to that point where your body normalizes with all of that. I think you need to then sort of look again back towards the intensity, you know. I don't know if everyone else is, but I think your signal's slow, Gare. So you're breaking up a lot when you were talking then.
It sounded amazing.
Did it sound good?
It sounded like T1000. Like, I was in no fucking idea what you said, but it was great.
I don't know why. I think I don't know. My internet's quite fucking shit in this room, to be fair.
You need to tell the hamster to speed up.
He's running, man. He's running. He's sweating a bit. But yeah, basically, yeah, that's if you heard half of that.
Yeah, we heard most of it, I think.
Yeah,
I think there's a time and place for each type of training. It's like, you know, you don't have to stick to one. You can have phases of each and stuff like that. I don't do the sort of training that I do all the time. When I'm off the protein,
Go.
then I pull things back a bit. I pull things back a bit and hang around. I'm not under the illusion that after I have delved into the pure whey isolate that I'm not really going to progress when I'm not using that.
Yeah.
I
agree.
And I need to accept that to a certain degree. Once you've smoked the doobie wicket, that and gone on the Clarky cats, that when you're not, you can't. Your progression is, So I try and just hold. If I can hold through those points of pulling back, and then do another push, and then my volume might be higher, my reps might be higher because I'm more susceptible to injury and stuff like that. And then I'll try and just not turn into a fat potato, which is going terribly right now. In fact, talking of eating potatoes, I really want to know what Kiera's eating. That's what I want to know, because she's not sure either. Because I thought maybe she's one of these pygmy bodybuilders, and she can power lift and it's only like 2 inches. And then I saw a picture. She went to Ultraflex and train with Meg and stuff. He's like a friend of mine, and you're look like 8 foot tall.
Oh well, I'm not 8 foot. I'm 5'5", so I'd say that's kind of like a average height, isn't it? Average.
Or maybe you had your heels on. I don't know. Maybe it's one of those. You've got the angles on everyone. That's what I'm saying.
Do you know, right now for the past 4 weeks, I've actually been on a deficit because I'm slowly starting to cut into. I'm kind of doing a pre-cut before the prep, if that makes sense. So I've actually been on around about 1,700 calories the past 4 weeks, and my body responds really well to it. I'm just someone who can put on weight very easily, and I lose weight easily from a certain point, but getting my body to that point where it likes to lose weight will take a good 6 to 8 weeks. But apart from having a few weeks off after prep, I'm on a pretty strict diet, regardless of it being a bulk or a prep. It's a bit of a weird one actually, because I have 2 coaches. So I have a powerlifting coach, and I have a bodybuilding coach, and they don't know each other, but they kind of work in conjunction with each other. So I stick to a diet that my bodybuilding coach gives to me, who's Johnny Castellina, and he knows full well that I also do powerlifting, so it probably is a bit of a different diet to what he would probably give me if I was just doing bodybuilding. And it's pretty straightforward really. It's just, I'm on 6 meals a day, protein with nearly every meal, and then we just base my carbs around when I work out, which right now is great because I'm only working out once a day. When the gyms reopen, I'll probably be splitting it to doing powerlifting in the morning and bodybuilding in the evening. But it doesn't take it out of me, really. I mean, sometimes if I do a really hardcore powerlifting session, it'll really take it out of me. But I think at the minute, because I'm almost trying to do so much in my powerlifting sessions, that's why usually I wouldn't be doing 6 sets of deadlifts or something like that. But diet wise, it is pretty straightforward really.
She's not human. That's all I'm gonna underline everything you said. It's just no point talking about it. She's not human.
Yeah.
She eats no food. She trains twice a day. She's bigger than me. She can outlift me. It's forget about it. So I'm watching a movie. I'm just gonna put it down and say it's not real. It's not real. It doesn't apply to me. Fucking hell. Can I see some of Meg's story? And when I've stayed at Cuba's, Meg eats some meals that are the same size as mine.
Meg's intake is phenomenal.
Nuts.
Like I think she was on something around 5,500 calories a day. If I ate that, I would be in the over like plus 100s in my powerlifting. Like
do it. That's what I'm rooting for.
Yeah.
I want to see that.
Was that right?
Get large and in charge.
Yeah.
I think year round your food's quite low, Kiera. Like no matter what your kind of goal is, you never really eat too much.
Not really. I mean, other than a few cheat meals, I've never really been in a surplus over 2,000 200 calories, just purely because I put on the weight and I put on the muscle easily. So there's no point in me, you know, I'm like going higher than that. I have enough energy and I do a lot of it based on energy. Right now, if I was struggling to lift, I would put it down to calorie intake, and then maybe I would rather do a bit more cardio after I've worked out and increase the calories a little bit. Therefore, I can, you know, crack on with my weight training and powerlifting as well. So I've never really done a big bulk. I'm also fully aware that I'm at the upper end of the figure, you know, kind of spectrum. So I'm also very aware that if I was to push the food a lot more, I probably wouldn't fit into the figure class. So I remember stepping on stage last year and I was 9 kilo heavier than the next heaviest girl I competed with. So
what was it? Are we allowed to ask women their weight?
yeah,
If it's,
so I was on stage, I was 67 kilo. So
shit.
yeah.
I was 68.
So, but yeah, I think I lost about 9. I think I lost 9 kilo in the whole 23 weeks of prepping.
Well, that's quite like a unique position to be in, that you can kind of, it's like some of the 212 guys. It's like the muscle's there, and then you can kind of work for balance, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got the powerlifting thing as well. You don't need to get bigger, so you can kind of stay within a little bit more striking distance, I guess.
Yeah, that's essentially what this year was about. It's just finding little tweaks that we wanted to improve and then just working on them. It wasn't necessarily about getting bigger in any aspect. It was just about creating more shape. Obviously with the powerlifting, I'm fully aware that things like my erectors, my legs, my back especially, I'm looking forward to seeing what my back looks like on stage this year after having like some weights behind it, because obviously I did powerlift last year, but not to the extent that I've off season. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that does look like on stage compared to other girls, because obviously I know other girls lift heavy, but I'm just looking forward to seeing what a normal bodybuilding figure athlete looks like compared to what someone who powerlift looks like. I feel like I may have an up on the density, especially in that kind of area. So I'm looking forward to that. But this year, like especially, was actually trying to keep the same, you know, structure and just like adding building blocks onto it, really.
Not a bad problem to have, is it, though, is it?
So I was thinking.
I followed you for a while, and I think I've never really seen you like majorly like out of shape at all, and like that's quite a cool thing too. I mean, like for myself, I've never really got that fat either, but some people have to really get out of shape, but especially for a female, like quite a lot of females.
I think, yeah, when I bulked from bikini to figure, that was probably the biggest I got. But it's funny because I'm the same weight now as I was then, but I looked a lot bigger then because obviously I've built more muscle since then. But I think that's the biggest. It was 78 kilo then, and I think the heaviest I've been is about 80, and that was more of like a kind of a fluke 80, because then like two days later I dropped back down to like 78. It's probably like water weight or something. But yeah, I think now it's just knowing that if I was to push that, then I wouldn't fit into the figure class. And I have been reminded a lot of times, like, oh, do you reckon you'll fit in figure this year? Do you reckon you'll go up to women's physique and all this kind of stuff? So yeah, I think staying on top of food isn't just like, oh, you need to do it for the prep. It's, oh, if you don't, then you're not going to fit in this class and you're probably going to be too small for the next one. You'll be like in between, which is not what anyone wants, really.
I still can't get my head around the fact that you must have pulled that banded 240 in a deficit.
Yeah.
I still like the way she said other girls train heavy.
No,
I know it's all relative, but you're like, oh, yeah, that's heavy. For them,
As immortals.
Yeah.
Immortals. Love it.
Well, Kiera, sorry, right? Do you see yourself staying in that division then, or because realistically you're 1/2 years into competing, like a few years down the line, do you see yourself staying there, or?
I mean, I would ideally like to stay in figure for a lot of reasons. I personally like the look of figure the most. Another big reason for me is I don't really want to push the protein that much to, you know, get into that division. That's a big thing for me as well. But I've always said, like, I wouldn't train for a class, and it's quite contradictory, because obviously you do train to look a certain way, but I've always been one to say, like, if my training takes me out of the class just purely because that's how I train and I don't fit into a class, then I won't push anything or do anything to make me fit into another class, if that makes any sense. So I'll stay in figure for as long as I can stay in figure, and as long as I control all the variables for it and I can still stay in figure, I will. But yeah, I don't see myself doing women's physique. I don't think it's for me. I think I'd stay in figure, and then if I was to move out of that, then I don't really know where it would take me. Maybe I'd focus fully on powerlifting, or I don't know, maybe have a bit of a break and go back into figure when I get a bit smaller. But yeah, I don't know.
Just take 2 years off, do nothing.
Yeah.
And go back.
Yeah.
No, she'd probably just get bigger. Just take 2 years off.
Yeah.
8 stone of muscle accidentally.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing, and ultimately, I think by staying strong and doing what you're doing, I think it's going to be very difficult for you to limit the amount of muscle, because you obviously genetically you're one of the elite. I mean, I think between obviously you and Ryan, I think the rest of us on this call are probably average or even below average genetic wise. But if you put those sorts of weights in correlation with the amount of training you're doing, I think, and your genetics, you're going to end up probably putting on that much muscle that eventually, that it's realistically probably where you'll end up landing.
Yeah, exactly. I think I would give it maybe 1 or 2 years. The other thing is, although I was one of the bigger figure girls, I definitely feel like I hold fat very well. So I look like I have a lot, like I do have a lot of muscle, but I look like I have a lot more muscle than I do. Like when I cut down, especially last year, although I was still one of the bigger figure girls, I thought I was going to be a lot bigger. I'd have a lot bigger legs than I did. So in a way, I've got that going for me, in that I know personally that when I do cut down, I'm not as big as what people think I'm going to be. I am still the bigger end of the spectrum, but I definitely think that's a plus. Just holding weight it's nice to hold weight in good areas that it looks like muscle, but then also to know that it's gonna go quite quickly is like a bonus, I'd say.
So between yourself and Jack, could you give Dan some tips on training legs?
You
can go fast.
I've tried everything. I've just got shit legs.
I just love volume. Like, I mean, I do heavyweight squats now, but I just killed the 20 rep squats on legs. I think that's what grew my legs mainly last year. But it's not nice. No one really wants to do them. So
yeah, I've just been like drop setty. So I get like kind of getting the high weight to start with, and then running the volume in the same kind of 20 plus rep range through. I mean, I've made some progress. I feel obviously really sad now. I was trying not to cry. I've made some big improvements, but like, especially like, you know, working with Amph and stuff like that. It's got some like pretty mad like concepts and stuff. And actually the thing that grew my legs the most was doing less. Yeah. I know that sounds fucking weird, but sometimes it's the opposite thing. It's the opposite thing. Also being tall, like Ryan's tall as well. So the amount of additional tissue I have to put on to a leg that's long, is more. You know, that something longer looks thinner.
I'm below 32, and because I'm 6'2", they don't look that big, but 32 inches is quite fucking big.
Yeah, I mean, it's proportion as well. But that's the thing about the tall physique as well, is that when you feel it, it is something serious. But you know, I've probably only not looked like a fucking string bean in the past sort of 3 years. And I started training late and stuff like that. But the point where you can actually fill that frame to look like a real bodybuilder is, you know, you have to put extra years in. No one 6'2" is flying up into pro status in the first sort of few years, because of just the sheer amount of tissue that you need to compete. You know, if I'm not competing like 250 or something like that, I just look like I should just like die. And also not having the stepping stone. Cool. So you've got the super heavyweights. That's over 100 kilos. If you're 6 foot or over, you're over 100 kilos. So you're over 100 kilos, looking like fucking, like you've just got corona, like hanging out your ass, and you know, you've got the death face and stuff like that. People are asking like, "Are you okay?" Thinking you're like fucking riddled with tumors, and you've got no muscle. You've got no muscle mass. So, but you're instantly, you're in NABA, you're in the tallest. You're in UKBFF, which is that's what people were fighting for when I started out. And then you're super heavyweights instant. So you just have to sit around the high end of the spectrum, just hoping that one day you fill out the frame. I'm not saying it's easier for short guys and stuff like that. It's just that is the common. I think you probably have to put on 2 kilos or 3 kilos per extra inch in height that you have. And that's my excuse anyway, so get fucked.
Come on.
Say that again.
So much easier for these fucking Oompa Loompas.
Mate, I was just seriously considering just like fucking ramming my, well, I was going to say car, but I can't drive. Maybe I could just run into a wall and become disabled, do the wheelchair.
Fucking hell.
Then you'd be sorry, wouldn't you? I mean, what didn't help was about 4 years ago, I had blood clots in my legs, and I had to have all of the veins, like the kind of visible veins, stripped out of my legs, and I had like 52 incisions in there. They ripped all of these things out and stuff like that. And I've got a bit of nerve damage. Sometimes I just feel like I've pissed myself, which is fucking weird. So I have, you know, when sometimes you sit on a heated seat. Have you ever done that? You get in a car, you sit on a heated seat, and you're like, oh no, it's okay. Like I get that, like randomly, like sometimes. Or if I'm in the shower, I'm like, oh, I've got to get this bit. I feel like I've got like cling film on me because I can't feel the water. So that's another excuse. You put that in your bag and get fucked again. I've got more if you like. I've got a list of ones.
The irony is though, Dan, is your legs are not actually bad legs. It's your upper body's so dense and you carry so much like upper body wise. It's obviously it's a symmetry thing. So
well, that's a better way of putting it, isn't it, Johnny? Let's be honest.
So what you're saying, Johnny, is that my upper body's shit.
We just need to join forces.
Jack looks like he's got big legs because his upper body's small. You look like you've got shit legs because your upper body's huge.
Oh god, I like this. Sounds much better.
It's a plan.
I
know what I'm doing.
It was therapy. I feel much better about it now.
But it's the same thing with arms, right? Like Dan's arms look crazy, but I mean, my arms are pretty big, but they look fucking tiny because everything else is so fucking large, you know? Like, quite a lot of great top pros arms are 20 inches and they look fucking jacked as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my penis, I mean, God, if I was small, I don't like it. It was going there, wasn't it? You know what I mean? If only I weighed 8 stone, I wouldn't look like I had a fucking baked bean attached to a pack of cling film with kidney beans in it. Fucking teabag with 2 ghosts in it, talking about the good old days. What you're saying, Johnny, is that I should just get fucking small.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Okay. I'll work on it. I will find that really easy. That's something I can do. I can do that. I could get really small. I could go literally from this to Auschwitz in a week, I reckon. Watch me.
Extra creativity.
I can't stop laughing when Joe. Oh.
It's not funny. It's not funny. I'm really upset about this whole podcast now. I feel like you wrote me in for the whole thing just for that. Just that, you fucking, hey Dan, you want to be mates with the gang? Yeah. Oh yeah, that's really good. Yeah, include me with your mates. So, yeah. And then I get, Dan, you got shit legs. I'll remember this. I don't remember.
Over radio comes a loaded gun.
The only one on
He
the,
picks on everyone.
yeah, but the thing is, Dan is Mr. Universe, so you can take this shit. That's all right, isn't it? So,
Well, I lost the overall, so I'm basically fucking calling it nothing, mate.
you know, you're a class.
Calling it no, it's bollocks, isn't it?
Mr. Universe, brother.
Nah, fuck it, mate. My trophy's in the bin. Fucking miss out on the. I'm gonna be that prick who calls myself Mr. Universe. Tell my grandkids about it when I didn't win the overall. Oh, Grandad, tell me about the time you didn't win the overall for the universe. Well, kids, gather round. Once upon a time, when Grandpappy was really cool, yeah, well, he didn't fucking win, kids. No, he didn't. I know your gran says I did, but I didn't. And your gran's a lying bitch. Yeah, that's it. It's like board short people before they got real trophies. You remember when the board shorts had bodybuilding trophies before they had these like fucking weird stick insects they put on it. And then I was thinking about like, cause you know you're always getting you're always getting a taxi, and you get a taxi, and you're like, oh yeah, you go, yeah, big, yeah, big. And he goes, yeah, my cousin also big. Yeah, I don't know why he talks like that. And then you go, yeah, bodybuilder, and you're thinking, okay, cue 8-stone cunt in shorts.
Yeah.
And sure enough, turn around, there it is, bodybuilding. Yeah, you imagine them with their grandkids. Oh yeah, I used to be a bodybuilder. Look at all my trophies. They're all bodybuilding trophies. Yeah, no, you didn't. You scrawny cunt.
Or it's their sister's friend.
So fuck that. I lost the universe. Bollocks to it.
Fuck 'em.
And it was all my fault. It was all my fault. There was no bad judging. There was no nothing. I was just a bit shit that day. How'd you like that?
All that bombshell.
Oh, fuck.
Gather round, children.
I don't know what to say. Oh, I think I'll title this a comedy show.
Just title it some fucking bald cunt that's angry and not spoken to anyone in 2 months.
You can call it Dan McNabb
Let's do that.
Unleashed.
Unleashed, yeah, something like that. That's why I watch it. That's the reason I watch his stories on Instagram. When you watch his stories and how dry he is, it's just fucking piss funny.
Well, the thing is that I'm never happier than when I'm miserable. And the stories have dried up a bit because of lockdown, because I'm actually fucking really miserable. So, you know, when I'm being horrible, that I'm onto a good thing. Do you know what I mean? So, no white men in coats. If I'm being a cunt, I'm loving it. Yeah, if you see me with a hashtag blessed, fucking send them round, mate. Intervention time.
On it.
If I start saying stuff like Dalai Lama quotes and stuff spelt wrong, yeah, then I'm in trouble. It's your, Y-O-U, apostrophe R-E, your, you are, not your. Dalai Lama would have spelt that shit right. He would have fucking, even if you can't spell, Google it before you expect me to take you seriously. I'm not reading your meme, changing my whole fucking life for your methodology about wearing board shorts if you can't spell your right, you prick.
Do you feel better now, Dan?
It's okay. I'm all right now. Mum, bring the opiates. I'm having an episode. I'll shut up now. You can talk about some real stuff.
I can't.
I'm going to turn this fan up to 11. Hold on.
Oh, fuck. Sorry, it's
Fuck,
just...
man, I'm fucking sweating, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So talking about long legs, Ryan. Obviously, you're a tall guy. How do you? What's your theory on it? You know, do you squat? What's your favourite movement?
So I haven't squatted in about 4 years, to be honest. I tried doing safety bar squats and stuff like that, but again, it's just my hips are a bit off, my lower back's a bit off, my knees are off, my fucking feet look like pasties. When I started training with Leroy and that, we got really deep in some fucking heavy ass leg pressing and hack squat. I think that's what put the most fucking meat on my legs. Definitely. But I've always been like a king of leg extensions. I just smash the fucking legs.
Yeah.
Warm-up sets, like galore. Like I do like 12 sets on a leg extension every leg day. Like a few warm-up sets, then up to really fucking heavy. Like really, like coming to the top and then always adding that extra inch fucking heavy sets, then coming back down again. And then like partial bottoms, partial tops, and then lock it out, fucking push negative against it, you know. It's my favorite exercise.
Do you find that the fascia, though, because obviously you're a big guy, and the amount of lactic acid buildup you get from doing those sorts of exercises, do you not find that limits the core movements you're doing then?
Yeah. Again, like you always said earlier about heavy lifting and stuff like that, that's a leg extension is for me. I go in there, get a good pump, my legs feel a bit wobbly for maybe 20 minutes. I can go for a piss and come back again, and they're like, oh, it's fine now.
Oh,
But you can do a fucking 1,500-pound leg press or something like that, I'm fucked through. But that is definitely, I think, important, is a blend of both worlds. Again, like, considering I'm quite tall, my hamstrings are pretty impressive from the side, which has always been quite good for me. But I've never been a stiff leg deadlifter or anything like that. For me, it's just been hamstring curls with like an insane fucking connection and contraction, you know? And it's like always that eccentric. Even before I came here to MI40, it was always that eccentric was overly thought about, come up to the rep and as slow as possible. And I could just imagine it in my head being fucking torn off the bone. And then I come here and he like fucking turns it up even more. And like my feet position is different. I like internally fucking rotate my hips. And we've got like, it's just fucking crazy. So like, and then like we're propping up more like a Superman. So you're driving your hips forward and like contracting your abs. It just makes everything so much harder. But I don't know. That's the thing is that I wish I could squat, but to me, it's just causes too many knee problems, hip problems that I just can't get any output. I think maybe 4 months ago, I started doing that Smith squat variation that JP was doing with the racks here. And I got up to like 7 plates a side for 7 or 8. And I was fucking feeling good for that. But I just felt like a few days after that, my knees were getting really bad. And I was like, is this Ryan just being stupid? Is it really worth extra bang for my buck? You know, like I could probably get the same sort of output in terms of muscle damage from the other exercises I was doing. And am I just risking my knees here? You know, I just wait until I can get them working properly to be able to add this back in. Maybe even like after I get my pro card and then start squatting again, and then there'll be an even greater difference, you know?
Yeah, so I think for me, ultimately, that just brings it back to the whole genetic thing, you know. Ben Chow touched on it the other day when he was with Fuad on the podcast. He was talking about people's ability to recruit muscle fibers. You know, the genetic elite can recruit those muscle fibers without even really trying. And then you've got the average sort of genetic guys who have to really focus and hone in on that, you know, so they can get away with a little bit more. But then this leads us on to the next point, really. I think we discussed about this just prior before we started the podcast, and you wanted to discuss it yourself more as well, right? It was the fact that obviously a lot of the IFBB pros are setting this ideal picture of how to get there. And then obviously it's a far different actual real picture, you know? So that comes down to what supplements they're using, what special supplements they're using, their training regimes, everything. So it's like, obviously when me and Dan started bodybuilding, we used to read the magazines with the Muscle Tech adverts every other page, you know, with their superstar sort of lineup, and everybody thought hydroxycut was going to get you absolutely shredded, and you didn't need to do anything. they might work, but you know what I'm saying. So
that's all I've been using.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously you're closer to it, right? So obviously you can give us a better perspective.
So like, yeah, like you know, like I'm quite fortunate with the people that I can like touch bases with, like on a really personal level. And not saying that I'm telling you what they told me or anything like that, but obviously I know loads of people that are really at the top of the sport. And like, when you get to sort of know these people, they are really doing things that the majority of people think they're good at bodybuilding, and they're ticking all the boxes. Ain't fucking anywhere close, man. Like these guys, like, oh yeah, I live and breathe bodybuilding. Even me, like, I'm like, fucking all right. There's just fucking I was training with Flex 2 months ago, and he was like, I stayed down there for a few days, and he was like, oh dude, I had a bit of dodgy food last night. He threw up. He was like, "Oh, buddy, you know we're supposed to train at 6, I think it was." He was like, "Yeah, I've just thrown up my last meal, so I'm going to get an IV, and then I'll come back down the gym." Who the fuck gets an IV after they've been sick? Like it's just crazy. There's just things to this next level that we're just like, oh, okay, that you don't really know about. It's not them lying as such, but like people just don't think about, like, there's so many other different supplements that they take, and you know that like it's kind of pushed under the counter. And what I was trying to say to you earlier is like you get a lot of younger guys, even me as such, like before I knew about the whole special protein thing, you think, damn, I'm never going to be able to do this. And then you realize that there are kind of other boxes that can be ticked that help you along the way. And I think that kind of, for me, touches on that mental health thing of being like, I'm really trying here, you know, like, what the fuck's nothing happening? And like people lying to you over social media about what they do and all this sort of stuff. I just think people need to stop being so, is it oblivious? I don't know. I don't know what the right word is, but I just think they need to realize that once you're progressing further in the sport, there's a lot more, it's not, you can't blame your genetics. They're doing a lot more than you are.
Yeah.
I think that the problem is, like, a lot of these pros, they don't want to let everyone know what they're doing because it'll knock the dream of someone else, because they'll be like, fuck, there's no way I can do all that. So they try and like keep the sport appealing to everyone, because if everyone was aware of what the top are doing, then it might put a lot of people off. And it might put a lot of people off their image of them as well. So
that's a very good observation, to be fair. That, you know, any involvement in a sport that ultimately isn't a spectator sport, you know, they do have to make it accessible. Or you see the explosion of the physique division. Why is it so popular? Because it's obtainable faster. You know, and if you can create an illusion that bodybuilding is more obtainable than it actually is, then the interest will go up, supplement sales will go up, and you know, the industry is, you know, based on that. Why do competitors pay to compete generally? Well, amateurs, it's because it's not really a spectator sport. It's not really. The only people that are there, you know, people that are friends and stuff like that. Some people will go and watch them, some of the bigger shows, you go and watch them, or it's us supporting each other or going and watching shows where, you know, we are our own system. It's not football. It's not, you know, hundreds of thousands of fans. So at the very top, Olympia and stuff, yeah, sure. But on the way up, they have to keep that interest in the consumer thing. That's something I hadn't really considered, but yeah, a very good point. The negative side of that, as you did touch on as well, is that it's unrealistic expectation, and unrealistic expectation through social media is one of the most damaging things to teenagers ever. And this is relating to everything. I'm a teacher, as I'm sure some of you know, and what people expect to receive in return for very little output is demoralizing for them. You know, they see all these people on social media, but they can't interpret it correctly, really, because no one has a photo album at home saying Grand's funeral, do they? No one's flicking through Grand's funeral, all the bad bits generally. You know, you have the albums of the best bits, and I think it's young people's inability to decipher that information. Everyone's praising their best and stuff like that. Unrealistic expectation is forced upon you. So it has a negative aspect of not sharing it because it needs to be accessible. It has a negative like impact on people thinking they can get there easier, but really, you know, they should young people, and it's not just I see this in college and young people and stuff like that, you know, with depression and stuff being absolutely sky high. And some of the training that we do with a lot of young people is people moving towards mental health with resilience training, looking to combat, to analyze things for what they really are. And I think that's a really negative aspect is it's not always the push of the social media, it's how it's interpreted. Like, we grew up without it. I don't know who grew up without it. I mean, you're all like 15 or whatever.
I started on the forums.
You started on the forum just abusing people. Oh, you got shit legs. Fuck it, dickhead. But imagine it, you know, I guess maybe Ryan or whatever, like, you're born and that was always there. Like, the social media was always a tag on, like, it's like a thing of existence.
I personally hate it, you know, like, I really wish, you know, for me, it's a lot of stress and stuff like that. But again, like what Johnny says, he sees that in me is that I try and keep it literally who I am and what's going on in my life and how I try and be really emotionally attached to it, because that's one thing that really upsets me, is seeing all these people we look up to. I know they have to keep it professional, but like, and nothing ever goes wrong. And that's something I really struggle with. And seeing a lot of people like close to me, like with depression and mental health, and like myself, and people like with the suicides and stuff. And I just want to try and do something to maybe help someone. You know, I feel like a lot of people interact with me because they realize that that's what I'm trying to do. I don't really know how to go about it, but I just try and put out there that they think I'm pretty good and like I'm living a great life. And yeah, I am, but like I'm a fucking person at the end of the day. And like the only reason I'm fucking doing this bodybuilding is because my head's fucked up. You know, like most of us, you know. And I feel like it should be all one big family, to be honest, you know, because it is fucking hard, and we wouldn't be doing this if there wasn't something really wrong with us.
I think it's a bit better now, because I think when people see, like, you're getting quite a good following, people are quite receptive to you being open and honest and being, you know, sort of emotionally out there, I guess. I think in the past, it was always the whole picture you trying to paint as a bodybuilder is you will be the hardcore badass, you know, nobody can touch me sort of picture and whatever you're trying to paint. But I think it is getting better, you know. Obviously you get quite a good reception from what you do. Jack's the same. Jack's quite sort of, I think Jack fucking videos himself taking a shit. He does. He's got about 1 million videos on his Instagram every day.
It was a great shit though.
In my defense, it was a good one.
Yeah, but this is the point I'm getting at. I mean, it is ultimately, I think people interact with that more now because they can resonate with it, whereas in the past it was sort of seen as a sign of weakness, you know?
And that's the thing though, isn't it? Ultimately, no matter who it is, no matter wherever I am in the world, people look at me and think, look at that fucking hard cunt. There's nothing ever wrong with him. And that's what I'm trying to put off, is that I'm fucking depressed, bro. Like, I need help too.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I have things like, you think I'm this fucking stone cold brick wall. I built this look for that reason. You know? Like,
I think most people in bodybuilding, like I said, it is a reason, and the reason is usually not the outcome. The outcome for most people that compete or at a high level usually isn't to look a certain way. It's usually a need or an outlet or a focus or something, or you know, speak to anyone who's high up. Well, maybe not everyone. Might ask Kiera in a minute. You know, there's usually a story. There's usually a story behind why someone started, and it usually isn't like, you know, I looked at someone naked and was like, I want to be naked too. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's usually not like, that's usually not the starting point, is it? You saw some guy in pants and you're like, this guy. You know, it's progressional, and it's usually, because you have to go to some fucking weird places to do the shit that happens. Do you know what I mean? If you're doing, you know, you've got the fucking, doing the luge at fucking 4 a.m, staring at the wall, just hoping that it gets to 6, so you could just about justify getting up to eat like fucking 5 grains of rice. You know, if you're with, you have to do that on. I don't know how you can do that on without being to some dark places inside. I'm not saying that you should use it and live there forever, but people who usually are unable to take it that far have something they can call on. Something that they can call on, and it's usually not huge amounts of joy. If I'm honest, I think bodybuilding is a huge crutch to many people, and most people have a story about it. And yeah, it's usually not like, do you know what I mean? Like all roses and stuff like that. But it is the lesser of two evils. Usually people come back from brink of drug addictions, abusive relationships, you know, whatever, feeling down about themselves. And sometimes people are replacing it for one thing for another. Because let's face it, you know, professional bodybuilding and stuff like that, everyone's talking about health, like I'm looking after my health and stuff like that. Like, that means that bodybuilding is removing from your health if you need to keep an eye out for that sort of thing. You don't get something for nothing, you know. So there's the argument of like, it's the better of something else that you were doing. But yeah, usually there's a story. Because just lifting shit up and picking it putting it down again. That's like not going to cut it for most people. It's a need for most people. You need to go to the gym. I need to go at this time. Do you know what I mean? I need to go. Why? And people be like, well, why don't you just not go? And you're like, that doesn't exist. It's like when people are like, don't you ever see a biscuit? And then you're like, well, just eat the biscuit. And I was like, the biscuit doesn't fucking exist. The biscuit is like, there is no biscuit. It's like, fuck biscuit. I don't even, like, it's not even in my zone. I'm here in my zone. There's no biscuits in my zone. Fuck you. You know.
I can see this going off on one again, Dan.
I'm gonna reel it. I'm gonna reel it in.
I
want it to know. It's T1000 again. It's a legend. He's there. Blah, 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 blah.
I don't
Love this guy.
It's fucked up, like.
Is this what real
Hey,
Welsh sounds
Take that
like?
biscuit and give it to the hamster.
Yeah.
What about this?
What is that?
This is a fucking.
What we got, right?
It's an avocado.
It was the size of my head.
It's aluminum avocado tomato.
It's 1,500 calories right there.
What is it?
A cookie.
A cookie. Fuck your biscuit. Kiera, I wanted to know why Kiera started training, and unless it's like really sad, like just maybe like what was the motivation? You didn't just see some like henchwoman and go, yeah, henchwoman, Xena.
No,
I mean, I saw Xena and was like, yeah, that's pretty serious.
I think it's a combination of lots of little things actually for me. I did competitive gymnastics for 12 years. And when I got to about 16, 17, I realized that I wasn't shit at it, but all the Chinese were better. So I just, in my head, I was like, it's not worth it. Like I was competing nationally, and I just wasn't going to progress in it. So I decided to stop. And I think it was at that point, considering I was literally doing about 38 hours a week, like every day, training for it. It was at that point I realized I needed something else. Like, I don't know whether I have a slightly possessive personality where I have to be doing something, or whether it was just purely because I had done it for so long that I needed something to replace it, almost felt empty. That was the reason why I started going to the gym.
Can we put a time scale on this? Just that, like, cause
so I started going to the gym when I was about 17 and a half-ish. Kind of did like a year of just messing about with it, really. And then I suppose, yeah, actually thinking about it, it was probably because I was a little bit lost. So I went to university with my boyfriend, and we moved, instead of going into halls or anything like that and making all your friends at university, we went straight into just living in private accommodation, and like just literally on my course and everything like that, just literally made no friends, absolutely nothing. So for me, I actually think I turned to training as a way to kind of get around that. Like I saw these people going out, partying, you know, like what normal teenagers would do. And I didn't have that. So I think I used going to the gym and training as almost like a way to disguise that almost. So it's not really like a sad kind of like story or anything like that, but it definitely was to, you know, replace something. And I would feel like now I say I enjoy bodybuilding more, but I think it's more because I have less pressure with bodybuilding, or I feel like I have less pressure with bodybuilding. I almost feel now, like you actually said before earlier, which is quite funny, I almost feel like I owe it to the powerlifting community to put Britain back on the map, because I know I have the potential to do that. So I think in a way it's really nice, and I know a lot of people would love to have that feeling, but in a way it's also like almost a pressure.
And it's a job. It's like almost a job,
that keeps you driving towards it. But yeah, I can't deny that I do enjoy it. But like you say, there's obviously, I think there definitely is some more reasons there that I haven't even figured out myself to why I do what I do, if you know what I mean.
Well, in gymnastics, you see a lot of people, well, you know, the Chinese camps and stuff like that, where your career as a gymnast is over like at puberty, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then what? And then you're just done. And that must, you know, it's probably good that you did transition. That would have probably left a very large hole in your life that could have been could have gone a much worse way. I hear Crack's quite Moorish, so that would have been a bad move.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Crack. Yeah, okay.
Do you reckon your gymnastics is like what? Because the training for something like that, the conditioning involved, and the fitness, and the hours and hours and hours, is part of the reason that your recovery is so amazing?
Yeah, I think so. I do. I always bring it back to the foundation of me doing gymnastics for so long. I think it definitely has had something to do with recovery and things like that, and just a foundation for a better physique. Like I was small. I was like if you looked at photos from me from like 4 or 5 years ago, I was small, but you could tell that I had a good foundation to begin with, which was built up from the gymnastics. And then also with that, I was a tumbler in gymnastics, which was more like floor based. So it was all just like, it's all tumbling. And I think from that, I was quite strong when I was about 17. Like I remember like squatting 100 kilo when I was like 17. So I was never, people say to me like, oh, like, were you strong to begin with? And that's a really hard question to understand, because what does that mean? Like, were you strong to begin with, like when I was 1? Or, do you know, like you don't really know. But I guess like when they say it now, I would say, yeah, I was naturally strong to some extent. And I think that did come from doing the gymnastics.
Who's got your friend? Who's your friend?
Oh, come here. This isn't my dog. My dog's about 12 foot tall. This is
to be fair, I love your new dog. Whose is this dog?
He's way better.
Should we feed it to the other dog?
Yeah, no, this is the reason why he's up here, because my dog thinks he's a toy. So he has to stay up here while the other dog is downstairs dominating the rest of the house.
Oh, wow.
But this one's just well behaved.
Oh.
Did you get your car wrapped yet or not?
No, not yet. I haven't got it wrapped yet, because I've been wanting to maybe get a new one, but I'm thinking I'm moving house now, so we're actually going to do all of that first and then decide on maybe a new car. But we don't know yet.
I'm still trying to figure out which Pop-Tarts I like best. There's like chocolate and then strawberry, and like these are the life decisions that are really affecting me.
Yeah, but do you put them in the freezer though?
Do you know what? I've never had a Pop-Tart.
Oh shit!
He's a
Never had one.
Jack, share the wealth, bro.
What is it?
You got to put them in the freezer though.
This guy's fucking crazy. Get him off. This guy's fucking nuts. At first he's telling me he's natty, he's putting Pop-Tarts in the... What next?
That's the secret. It's half natty because I put them in the freezer. It's a secret.
This guy's off his rocker. Or either that, or he was really poor as a child and he didn't have a toaster, and his mum made up some elaborate story about.
Well, I wouldn't have a freezer then, would I?
Like, yeah, that's a toaster. Or maybe you just didn't have heating as well, and it was just really cold. It's where are you from?
Swansea.
Swansea. Yeah, it's cold there, isn't it?
Fairly.
That's your toaster.
I think on that bombshell, guys, I think we'll end this podcast for this week.
How long have we been chatting shit on it?
It's like over 2 hours.
You have to edit me out or something.
What's that right?
It's like the ogre, you know, the thing that sits under the bridge that's all grumpy.
I'm not actually grumpy, I'm loving life. Well, look, for what it's worth, it was lovely to meet you all. Well, I met some of you already before. Johnny's all right to me. He's a bit of a cunt. I have met him. But it was nice to meet everyone else.
Yeah.
One thing I would like to say is bodybuilding is the best community out of any. I'm a teacher, the community's shit. I'm a musician, they're out for each other. Like the help in the coronavirus and everything. And you know, you can message anyone in fitness. Then the outside view is that we're all narcissistic bellends. And you know, I had a few projects for students, for stuff with musicians, and the responses were shocking. Like people trying to charge me 350 quid for an hour Skype call. People trying to, you know, at a time where they have nothing, they have no work and stuff like that. I think that the way that we connect each other and the way that we support each other is not found like anywhere else. And yeah, UK bodybuilding is fucking rules.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't know about, I can't speak about America, Ryan, so you'll have to loop him in. Maybe it rules as well. But yeah, he looks hot. He'd wear the vest anyway, wouldn't he? Let's be honest.
Kiera, thank you for coming on. I know it's probably a bit of a shock to the system having
no,
Oh, you're apologising for me as well. Fuck me. You're like my mum. You're like my mum. My mum would, like, when I was a kid, would drag me in and be like, sorry about him. Sorry. I had to bring him. He came out of my womb. I don't know. I tried to keep him in. He just escaped. And now he's 9 and he's a twat. Don't apologize. Never apologize. Never explain. Let me apologize. And I fucking won't.
On that bombshell.
Stop saying on that bombshell. That's 4 times. I love you. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Bye.
See you guys.